With Scott Brown, the senator-elect.
For
Let's
our
listen.
meeting. Can I just say I'm very pleased and proud to have Senator Brown come and visit with me. People all over the country have been excited by his incredible victory and his victory night performance. People around the country have gotten to know him and his family. But most importantly, Senator Brown represents, I think, the dreams and the hopes and the frustrations that Americans feel today. And they want the kind of leadership that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts just sent us. And I'm pleased to have been an early supporter, even though a bit foolish at the time. I am very proud of his success. And he won his campaign because of who he is. Primarily, first of all, the individual that he is that knows how to communicate with the people of his state. And I think he'll continue to communicate with the people of America.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate your support. Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm honored. Senator McCain, as you now know, was one of the first people to actually look me in the eye in this very office and say, well, it's a long shot, but I'm with you if you feel you can win it. And I wanted to pay him the first visit and thank him for that support. It's something I've always, obviously I think most of us have read his book and know of his life and his service to our country, and I'm more thankful for that than for his service here today. So thank you, Senator, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
Senator Brown, you made no secret that you are beholden to no one. You said it exactly that way. We who've covered Senator McCain for a while have heard him say that a lot. Is there any sort of tips, Senator McCain, perhaps you'll be giving him on how to be a maverick here in the Senate?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that, and Senator Elect Brown can describe it better, he comes from a state that's a very diverse state. Majority of voters are independents, and I'm sure that they will expect, and I know he will, act as he has, putting his country first, as he has in service to the Army National Guard and Reserve.
Senator Brown, do you expect you want to work with Democrats on the health care bill?
Well, a lot of you don't know me, but I have 85% of the delegation in Massachusetts are Democrats. I actually voted for a health care bill in Massachusetts, and it was a great bipartisan effort. So it's clear that I wanted coverage for everybody in Massachusetts, and we have 98% of the people insured there. The bill that was being pushed in Washington was not good for Massachusetts. It may have been good for other states, but we already had everything, and a lot of what was being proposed between the $500 billion in Medicare cuts, the cuts potentially in TRICARE for veterans, and you're looking at the higher taxes and almost a one-size-fits-all program is not good for Massachusetts. Am I open? Certainly. I'm open to looking at every single bill on its merits and making a decision based on that. And my first interest is going to look at is whether it's good for my state, and then obviously if it's good for the country.
Senator Brown, Democrats have historically relied on New England Republicans to negotiate on various issues. That New England Republicans have generally been the most amenable to deals on various issues. Where do you see potential for common ground with Democrats in the majority?
Well, when I spoke to Leader Reid last night, we had a nice talk. We had cracked a few jokes, and obviously sometimes they get me in trouble, but other times they're well taken. And I'm sure there's things, and without I don't want to be premature and say that I'm going to be with them on this and that. I obviously want to get here. I want to get a staff. I want to get an office, get a business card, and then look at the information and make a proper decision based on the facts.
Now that Republicans have 41 seats and a legitimate seat at the table, how would you like to move forward on legislation working with the Democrats, perhaps better than the two parties have so far this year?
Well, I think you just said it, working with the Democrats. We need to. One of the things, folks, that I've heard throughout my state, and I traveled everywhere in the truck, the famous truck, and we actually, one of the main themes is that people were outraged at the backroom deals, the fact that we in Massachusetts were going to have to subsidize Nebraska and their Medicaid payments forever. Well, we already are paying for a good plan. It needs some work. So why would we do that? And they were upset at the carve-outs, the backroom deals. Every time there's a new day, there's a new group being exempted. So that pool of people ultimately paying was going to be less and less and less. People want good government. They want transparency. They want us here. Now that I'll be here soon, they want us to solve problems. We've got Al-Qaeda, trying to kill us. We've got very serious tax and spend problems. We've got some real fiscal issues and job questions. and we're not solving them. We're talking about things that are really irrelevant, and that's what I'm hopeful that, based on the messages I've heard from all the delegations, whether they be Republican or Democrat, I think they get it, and I'm hopeful they get it, and I'm going to try to remind everybody that we can do better.
How do you feel on a personal level? Has it sunk in yet?
Well, it's a little overwhelming seeing you all here, and when I'm going to walk the dogs and get a bite to eat, it's a little strange. But I understand it'll calm down, and I can get to work. And I appreciate everybody's interest. And I know there's an interest in who I am and what makes me tick. And we've always had a very good relationship, and the dogs miss you. So,
Senator, what's the latest on the transition for you? When you might have an office, you move in here, and any word on where you might live down here?
Well, I'm going to be living in Massachusetts. I have a family back home, and I want to continue to try to make my daughter's games and hug my wife at the end of the day. And obviously there'll be times I'll have to be overnight. That'll all work out. I'm a believer that people on both sides of the aisle want me to come here, and they want me to be part of the process and part of the solutions. I will say, and I'm glad you're all here, the reception I've received from the folks on the other side, the Democrats on the other side, in the delegation especially, has been extremely gratifying and made me feel special, and I really appreciate their efforts to reach out.
Senator McCain, what concerns do you have about the political risk of so much expectation being placed on Senator-elect Brown and this idea of a movement taking hold? Isn't there risk in that?
I think there's always a risk, but I'm sure it's a risk that Senator-elect Brown was more than eager to take. We Republicans need to expand into New England and other parts of the country. And perhaps now that we have 41 votes, that the Democrats and the president will seriously sit down with us rather than dictate to us and expect to try to pick off one or two Democrats. Let's start all over. Let's sit down and have bipartisan negotiations and work together.
Just going to take this one last question.
What about swearing in?
What about it?
When?
Well, whenever. I'm not worried about when. It'll happen in the ordinary course. I'm anticipating sometime next week.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, guys. It's time to go. We've only got a few minutes. Everyone needs to go.